Welcome to this meeting of the Joint Standards Assessment Subcommittee. The first item on the agenda is the election of a chair, and I understand that members would like Councillor Rawlings to chair the meeting. Is that agreed?
Agreed.
Thank you, members. I'll hand over to the chair now.
Yes, thank you very much for that. Thank you very much, members. To start the meeting, there isn't actually a point on the agenda that talks about apologies for absence as it being a subcommittee, but just to point out, I'm very grateful for Councillor Douglas for standing in for Councillor Carr this afternoon. And apart from that, everybody is in attendance. Thank you very much, Councillor Douglas. Item 2, declarations of interest. At this point, can I ask anybody to declare any interest they may have in the agenda tonight that does not already appear on their declaration of interests as posted? Since I'm met with silence, I will take that as there's nothing. And as I normally do, and Angela down there is smiling, I'll say that should the conversation at any time head in the direction where you feel uncomfortable, please stop, declare your interest, and we'll take the monitoring officer's advice at that point. Item 3 then, if I may, is exclusion of press and public. This is in order to give us permission to go into exclusion, not necessarily to do it now. We will be taking the report under item 4 in public, but I'm of a view, subject to the last meeting as well, that it's impossible to talk about that report without going into private session. I will, of course, be happy to take questions on the report in public before we do so. In light of that, is everybody happy that that's correct and we can go into private session at an appropriate time later in the meeting? That's unanimous. Thank you. Just for the record then, we're doing that on the grounds that this report contains information related to an individual. The information is classified as exempt under paragraph 1 of section 12A to section 100A of the Local Government Act 1972, as amended by the Local Government Access to Information Variation Order of 2006. Thank you for that. Item 4 then, if we may, is the report on the conduct complaint received against a City of York councillor. The report everybody has received and had the opportunity to read, but could I ask the monitoring officer to give us an overview of the report and our options this afternoon? Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. So the monitoring officer received a complaint, and in response to the consideration of that complaint, the decision was made to seek a joint standards assessment subcommittee to be convened. That committee met on the 26th of October, and in undertaking the initial analysis of the complaint received, the decision was taken that the complaint received to an investigation. In accordance with the assessment subcommittee's wishes, an investigation has taken place, and the investigation report is brought back to, for the purposes of consistency, an assessment subcommittee for consideration as to the next steps to be taken. As indicated in the report at paragraph 2, under the subheading of recommendations, there are 3 options available to the assessment subcommittee this afternoon. Number 1 is to rule that the draft report is not complete and that further investigation work needs to take place. This would mean that the draft report will be returned to the investigating officer with a recommendation as to areas for further investigation. For example, the investigating officer would be fully appraised of the comments that you'd raised this afternoon. The second option is to rule that the report is complete and that the finding is accepted. This would mean that there's no further action taken and the matter is brought to a close. There would be no rights of appeal for this decision. And thirdly, the final option would be to rule that the report is complete, but the finding itself is not accepted. This would mean that the subcommittee may recommend that the case be referred to a hearing to deliberate on outcomes and next steps. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much for that. Members, any questions to the monitoring officer whilst we're still in public session? Thank you very much. Then I take it that there are numerous questions and we have no choice but to go into private session. For anybody who is listening in, I do not intend, since this is the last item on the agenda, to return to public session after this. So the rest will be heard in private, the decision will be made in private, but the decision of that private session will be made public immediately following. just for clarity. Then could I ask the technical people behind the scenes to take us into private session and confirm when that's taken place? Thank you.